Good morning. Thank you for listening to WXOX 97.1 FM in Louisville, Kentucky. This is Artist Talk with LVA, the show produced by Louisville Visual Art, and I'm your host, Keith Waits. Today, we're talking to theater people, and I have two people here now who are working on a play called Infertility, a play with music, which is opening May 12th and running through May 22nd at the Mex Theater in the Kentucky Performing Arts Building on Main Street. First, the playwright of record, Margaret Miller, is a writer from Texas. She received her BFA in theater from Tisch School of the Arts at New York University and her MFA in playwriting from Trinity College, Dublin. Her radio play, Nothing and No One Go to the Moon, was featured on RTE Radio Drama. She co-wrote this documentary, Dress a Cow, which premiered at South by Southwest this year. Her short film, Animal, is in post-production in Los Angeles. She lives in Louisville now with her husband, Stephen, and her dog, Rosie. And I saw a picture of Rosie, and she's adorable. And Heather Summers is with us, a singer-songwriter and folk musician from Louisville, Kentucky. She grew up with her grandpa on a houseboat at Dale Hollow Lake and with her adopted family in Columbia, Kentucky. Her songs often feature lyrical content from these inspiring times in her life. Thank you both for being with me this morning. The first thing I want to ask you, I want to talk about where the play came from, but first I want to talk about the creative relationship between the two of you, because you know, the Facebook pages and things I've seen of, say, play by Margaret Miller, directed by Abby Koenig. Is it, how does Abby say her name? Koenig. Abby Koenig. We should say that too. But in the press materials you've sent out, it's clear that both of you, that it's not just a play by Margaret where you've invited Heather to come and perform it, that there's a much closer creative relationship in the development of this play. So Margaret, talk to me a little bit about how, so I'm guessing you had the idea first, but then how does it become an experience with Heather?
I think I had, obviously the play material is fairly, close to my heart and sensitive. So I knew pretty early on in developing it and writing it that I wanted another woman with me on stage. And while it was going to be my story, I didn't want to be doing it alone. And so very quickly I was like, I want a musician. And Heather and I had kind of circled around each other. My husband and I are fairly new to Louisville, like 4 years, but with COVID, it feels like 2. And Heather and I kind of circled around each other and friends of friends and seen each other out. And I'd seen her play before, but we weren't necessarily close, but her absolutely beautiful music and really her kind of like Appalachian old-timey sound, I thought would just be perfect paired with this, because it takes place in a doctor's office, or a series of rooms in a doctor's office. And, that cold, compressed feeling of being enclosed in those kind of intense spaces. I really thought her kind of input and collaboration would be really, really cool with that. So I asked her over for pizza and I sat her down and I was like, I'm doing this play about our fertility struggles, and would you be interested in doing the music? I hadn't written songs. I hadn't thought about songs. I hadn't thought about where the music goes. I hadn't thought about anything. I had started writing the words, and that's about it. And I can't remember if I gave you the script or not, or I gave you like some version of it, I think. Pretty early on, and then she took it upon herself, and in some of the early rehearsals, like, it was like, okay, I think maybe music here, and she was like, I think maybe this calls for it, but all of the composition is totally hers, and all of the songs are hers except for a couple of old-timey and Irishy covers that are sprinkled in. But even like, she used GarageBand to come up with like some digital stuff and, all of that. But also just like her kind of awesome presence in this very, sensitive story that I'm telling. She's very calm and she's very, very good at, she's very easy to be in the room with, which is something that I think I needed while doing this piece. So as the rehearsals have gone on, she'll just like, I'll be out and she'll send me something on my phone, like, what about this? Or did you hear that? And then so we text back and forth a lot, throughout this whole thing until we finally kind of got all the blocks in place. And yeah. Do you have anything to say?
Well, Heather, what was it? So what was your response when you saw this material? Did it, did it seem like it would be a nice challenge for you, or how does it resonate with you?
Yeah, when I first read the script, I laughed a lot and I cried some. So, yeah, I knew that I could definitely put some music in there. Yeah, I think at first I was like a little cautious and not sure exactly like how much music to put in or like exactly where. And I feel like it wasn't really until we started doing more of the blocking and really like working through everything that I started to really feel it, like, oh, okay, like this scene.
Yeah.
And then I kind of started writing some music and playing around with this harmonium that I actually borrowed from Will Oldham. So thanks.
Thank you, Will.
And that really opened up the instrument itself, just kind of like opened up this world.
Very much so.
Mhm.
I think that instrument really changed the whole thing.
I think if it wasn't for the harmonium, like,
yeah, it would be different.
it would be
it would,
different.
yeah. Something about it. And we had asked, I was like, maybe a harmonium would be good. And I didn't really know what a harmonium was, but theatrically it looks cool and I knew it sounded good. And then Will was nice enough to let us borrow it, and Heather sent me something. I was like, oh, what did you say? It's like the key to the lock, like for the whole piece. Yeah. So
it was.
yeah. And so, yeah. And then we sat down with our director, Abby, and we kind of went through, and it was very much like, I think maybe music would go here. I think maybe music would go here. And then we send Heather off, and she comes back with her brilliant stuff. So, I mean, we feel very lucky that she agreed to say yes, that she agreed to
I
this.
feel lucky too. And like one thing is, it's hard to be like, take this very personal piece of artwork and then be like, okay, now I'm going to make a creation to go with this. Like, will it be good enough? Will it fit? But it is what it is. And
yeah, it is. It is what it is. Yeah.
We just have to see how people feel about it.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more specifically about what it is, Heather. What is the story or the plot that somebody might want to know coming into the theater?
Well, it's autobiographical, mostly. I think on the script it says a mostly true story in one act, and it's about mine and my husband's dive into the world of fertility treatment. We realized in my mid-30s that we were going to have some problems getting pregnant, and then what you do about that, and then what that kind of opened up for me when I realized that it wasn't going to be easy for me to become a mother, and what that meant about how I felt about myself and how I felt about my past, and how it was how I was really wanting to change the definition of myself from like a non-mother person to a mother person. And when I couldn't make that transition naturally, just all of this stuff that came up for me, and I had like kind of a tawdry past and a wild 20s. And, is this trouble that I'm having, is that indicative of something? Of course, I know it's not, of course, but it's interesting what instincts come up for you, what feelings about yourself come up for you when you're dealt these hands. And then, so the play kind of goes back and forth between my past and my present, of like the struggle that I'm having right now, trying to conceive, and then also like what has happened to me in the past and how those two different women kind of become me, in this sense. And then also just, the story of that millions of people have, of trying to have a kid, of pregnancy loss, pregnancy, of infertility, of, all of these moments that I felt like I was kind of rushed through in mourning process. And I was rushing myself through. And it was interesting how sad I was and wasn't getting over very quickly, and how embarrassed I was that I wasn't getting over it very quickly. And then I decided, like, I'm just going to wallow in this by like writing a play. I have a whole 120 minutes about it. And just kind of say it out loud, like just say what it was and what it made me feel about myself and what it made me feel about other women and what it made me, learn, kind
I
of.
suggest catharsis is a better word than wallow, but I appreciate your candor.
Thanks.
Well, I'm older than you guys, and so I know that, like, in my generation of friends, there's a lot of these kinds of struggles that my friends had that experienced, and I remember thinking at that time, watching them all go through that, and I'm not a parent, that it seems like women in particular are caught in a place where we are our evolution as a species is kind of in a strange place, because it seems like it's the easiest thing in the world to get pregnant when you're a teenager, but our culture has shifted all that, right? You're no longer like, the child bride getting married like 500 years ago, and that's your job, is to have babies. Now, women are leading lives and making decisions, very responsible decisions. Families are, I should say, about, because I don't think many guys want to be a father at 18 either. But, it's like making these decisions about waiting until a certain time in your life, and you're ready and you're prepared, and it seems so responsible. And it's the way the world looks at it. And it's not a political thing. It's not liberal or conservative, because everybody thinks teenage pregnancy is not the way to go, right? So it seems like women are caught in this weird place
That's interesting
in our evolution.
Yeah, because you are, I mean, there is just so much social, outer socialization of women. Like, everyone wants to, judge them for something, or, everyone wants to judge everyone for something on a certain level. But like, of course, it's not good to have kids so young, but then you get 35. I remember I was in a lake with my friend's dad, and like it was like a boat trip, and he was like, I hear you're trying to have a baby. And I was like 35, which is, and he was like, oh, you're getting on up there though, like made a comment of like, you don't like, okay. And I was like, but I also was told not to have a baby, like that, like you like get a college education and get a mortgage, like there's this very small window. And then even like 30, they're now it's like, you're pushing it, which evolutionary you are. And so, and is something like gluttonous about, is there something wrong in like being older and trying to have a baby and going through all these things, to try to have a family like later in life? But it's kind of like a lose-lose situation a little bit, I think, that you can get caught up in. Yeah, because you're not supposed to have them in high school, and you're not supposed to have them in your 30s. So, there's kind of
Right. Well, and I remember when I was, being at a party, and so are my women friends, and I said, oh, well, how's your friend so-and-so you're talking about? Yeah, well, they're trying to have a baby, and they're just really frustrated because it's taking months. And they all looked at each other like, yeah, we all know, because they were all people that had waited until they were 30, 35 years old to start trying.
Yeah. My
Also,
husband and I started at 35, but we met at 35. Like, like there was no way I could have gone earlier. So,
well, that's the other thing too. You want to feel like you're in a partnership that's going to sustain for a while, and even if it's not their whole lifetime, it's at least going to sustain while you raise kids or something, So all of like that's why I say everything, all these decisions that everybody is making now make perfect sense for the society we live in, but the bodies betray us, or we're working against some sort of biological thing. And I don't know.
I mean, it is true. Like, I never knew that the biological clock was a thing, but it is. And you start to, it's interesting watching my friends go through it, who never wanted kids, but like still that, just that the opportunity is being taken away from you is fairly traumatic and not just for women, for men too. that who are partnered with women, that the chance every month the chances go down. And so dealing with that can be very hard. Yeah.
Well, and I appreciate that you're talking about something that's very personal and very sensitive, but as we've made clear, I think it's something that so many people can identify with.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think even just talking about it, like, and the play kind of evolves, and that was part of Heather's contribution too, like into like this idea of motherhood itself and what is motherhood, like what, like or our relationships with our own mothers and like wanting to pass that on, and it kind of it is this like clinical thing, this scientific thing that goes through that you're going through in this doctor's office, that just kind of opens up all these different parts of you, that like I wasn't that close with my mother when we were a teenager. Like Heather grew up in the foster care system and has like lots of different mothers and mother figures, and so that's been really interesting between the two of us as well, like the fact that I was having trouble being a mom, and and then Heather's music, where she was growing up basically, well, I don't know if I say without your biological mother, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that dynamic between us writing has been really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Heather, I want to come back to you before we lose time here. You're going to sing a piece from the show for us.
Yeah.
Do we need to know anything about what you're going to sing before you sing it, or do we want to sing it and you sing it and then we talk about it?
I guess I'll just sing it and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm gonna do it a cappella. At the play, I'll be playing guitar.
Right. But as we discussed previously, Zoom likes voices but not guitars.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, whenever you're ready.
Take a journey to find your mother while you nap in the front yard. When you find her, let her in, and that's when she'll begin to come into view. She may be searching for salt in her kitchen, picking apples from a tree, at a window remembering a song she used to sing. Where do we keep these promises of sweetness in the wind, of a place to dip your hands in? Cool, clear water, cool, clear water. Dream diving with your mother. She takes you by your hand. She looks at you, she's young. Years are fading in her song. There is you, now here is me. And she plants you in a field of tall, tall grasses, and releasing of your hand, she leaves you where you stand on a journey to find where she keeps these promises of sweetness in the wind, of a place to dip her hands in. Cool, clear water, cool, clear water. That's it.
I know I'm always tempted, I want to dub in like a big round of applause from but yeah. Isn't that
Well,
all?
that's scary.
But it was what was lovely was to watch your face, Margaret, while she's singing and to see the expression on your face.
I love listening to Heather sing.
Yes. Well,
And that was like my major ulterior motive in getting her involved. So just she would have to sing in front of me like 3 times a week. Yeah.
Well, and I sadly have not heard Heather sing before, but listen to that voice, the qualities you're talking about. We're coming through. That I feel like that the character is present. That is very honest and authentic and sort of, let's say, I don't know, removed from some of the phonier aspects of life.
Yes, that's her. No, that's her voice, because it's very, very pure, and it's very, and her images are very pure, and like, yeah, and so there's not any affecting, really. It's just kind of you believe her when she's singing to you, and that's a very powerful thing, I think, that a lot of people don't have. That she's just her.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
That's very nice compliments.
Yeah.
That's the advantage sometimes of not having more prep. I mean, I really, what I like about doing this show is just like sort of actually like hearing that voice for the first time in the show.
I know, that's so
kind of special, instead of like going and listening to a whole bunch of stuff. So I know that was really special.
Yeah, go listen to the other years this afternoon. That's her band. Just listen to it, and it's one of my favorite albums. Yeah.
All right, I will. And it's always good too to be turned on to things, because I always have to play a song or two on the show, is whatever, to the interstitial moments. So we'll see about doing that. We just have a few minutes, but I really want to touch on the idea that I feel like there's, well, obviously on various levels, women's reproductive rights, issues with women's reproductive, this is very much in the air. It's in the air politically, socially, but I have to say too, there was another really excellent play called The Baby Maker, that you had mentioned before we came on, and so when your play came up, I almost felt like I don't think there's any real connection between the two productions. I think it's just serendipity. But it seems like they are, in some ways, could be seen as companion pieces. I haven't seen your play yet, but the subjects seem to be, yeah.
Well, The Baby Maker, Emily Grimini's play that she directed, who we saw, and Stephen, my husband, and I were like, oh, it's a little bit of two sides of a coin. It's Baby Maker is about a woman who doesn't know. Is having an inner consternation of whether she wants to be a mother, even though she's pregnant. But now everyone's like treating her as a baby maker and focusing on the baby more than the mother. Reminds us of some other things happening right now. And then this is more of a woman that really wants to be a mother and is having trouble doing that. And so, and like the struggle is real and real and correct and valid on both sides of those things. So I think it's still important to let women choose what they want to be and respect those choices. And even in, I think women who are older and who want to be mothers, there can be a lot of judgment. You hear a lot of like, well, you could foster and you can adopt, absolutely. And those are absolutely things that are in our world. But I feel like there's also just a moment of mourning that needs to be appreciated for women that can't do this, that aren't biologically able to, or because of time, or because of pregnancy loss, they're not able to have this. So I think, I think there's definitely something in the air. And our production is really female heavy. Our director, Abby Koenig, the three of us, it's just been the three of us kind of in a room. Our dramaturg, Katie Hopkins, who's actually a child psychologist at Norton. And I think our set designer is a woman, our stage manager is a woman, our lighting designer is a beautiful man, but like it is a very kind of heavy Abby just poked her head in because she's like, when are we rehearsing? But yeah, so it has been like, and then I was talking to our set designer. She's like, there's something happening in Louisville right now where there's a lot of female theater creators that are churning out really interesting subjects.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
Mhm.
And probably worth having a whole show just about that. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll do that in the near future.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So we're just happy to be a part of it. We're just, this
Yeah.
this is the first time this play will be done. So we're a little nervous, but we're really, I think we've come up with something pretty special. And we are, we're just really happy to be kind of part of the Louisville theater community, which has been so welcoming to us. And like they've taught, I've gone to people I've never met before and asked them for stage manager names, and and so everyone's kind of cradled us in their arms, and so we're very thankful to everyone in Louisville.
Well, I'm afraid we've run out of time, so
Okay.
let me just say it again. Infertility, a new play with music, and I love that it's a play with music. I love that you did bring music into it, and find that sort of place where it's not a musical and it's not a play, but it's a play with music. But it opens May 12th in the Mex Theater in the Kentucky Performing Arts Building. Runs through May 22nd.
Oh, wait, no, only May 14th. There's only 4 performances.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
12, 13, 14.
Yeah, so it's May 12th, 13th, and then the 14th, which is a Saturday, we have a matinee and an evening performance. So it's just for that weekend.
Right. I gotcha. Sorry about that. All right.
No, you're fine.
I've looked at a lot of schedules for plays, so that might have been.
Yeah.
So Margaret Miller and Heather Summers have joined me today to talk about that. And so if you go see the play, you might see Margaret, but you would definitely see Heather. She is the person on stage that will be performing.
I'll be on stage. I'm on stage too.
Oh, you're on stage too?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's me and Heather on stage.
Oh, how did I miss that? Okay, cool.
No, you didn't. Yeah, it's totally fine. It's me talking and Heather singing.
I made some dumb assumption there. So
no, I love that you did. I think it's great. No, I trust me. I wish it was just Heather on stage.
No, Margaret's amazing.
I wish it was, but no, it's both of us. You get two for the price of 1 ticket.
Okay, well, sounds like a good value.
Thank you so much, Keith. This was really fun. We appreciate you.
Thank you for taking the time with me today.
You're welcome.